Welcome to the first episode of 2024 here on Make Mine Mayday, the show all about Spider-Girl and her world. Today we are wrapping up the multiversal adventures prior to last year. We are glad you are along for the ride. Before we get too far into the episode, I want to briefly acknowledge that this episode is powered by patreon.com/SpideyDude Network, as well as SpideyDude.com, which is where you can find the audio editions of the podcast, which are widely distributed to Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting hosts. I'll talk about the other fine programs on the network at the end of the episode, but right now you can see the sensational tier patrons over at patreon.com, as well as our patrons, Spectacular Friendly Neighborhood VIP, Spectacular tier Sarah, and VIPs Scott, Vinkman, and Sebastian. Thank you guys for your support. And please leave us that 5-star review if you are an audio listener, or leave us an email and we'll read it on a future episode. If you're listening to that audio edition, this was live streamed to our YouTube page as well as other platforms, so pay it no mind if we make references to visual aids and or live comments. And if you're watching us on the YouTube live or after the fact, be sure to give us a like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to hit the bell icon so you can be updated as to when we produce new content. All right. Hey, everybody. I am Zach Joyner, webmaster of spidey-dude.com.
Zach, what's wrong with your video?
What's wrong with my video?
Yeah.
My video already messing up? Don't tell me that.
You are a black screen, my friend.
I'm. You got to be kidding me. I can see myself.
All right. I can't see you.
Okay. Well, let's see if I just go. I don't know. Anyway,
it's fine. Let's keep going.
Executive producer, Spidey-Dude.com, Spidey Radio Network. And I have, as always, joined by it's always my honor and privilege to introduce the host of the program, Kelly McDaniel. Kelly, hello.
Hi. I'm by myself. There we go. I'm fine with that. Wait. Okay, good. It almost looked like two Kellys. I was like, no. Wait. Anyway. Great start to the year.
I know. Welcome to 2024. So we're going to be covering a lot this episode, and we're trying to stay focused, but obviously thanks to technical issues, which, it's me and the ongoing internal battle between internal issues.
It's the problem. It's you.
Yeah. I am the problem. Yes. In this case. So we do have a Spider-Girl movie, right, Kelly? That's coming out soon.
Yeah, Spider-Girls, the movie. Very fitting for this episode, actually. But yeah, Madam Web comes out on Valentine's Day, 2024. And it's a thing. It exists. I'm actually I don't know what else more to say about it. We all know we're gonna go watch it. So, there's that. I don't really know what else to say. Dakota Johnson stars in it as Julia Carpenter. There's Sydney Sweeney. There you are.
Hey,
Zach.
Okay.
Cool. So it's it's a thing. It's a thing. We'll talk about it once it's out because I'm sure I'm gonna go. Maybe I'll go to the Cinemark in Orlando.
Neil are gonna go together. And we're gonna hopefully openly mock the thing on a matinee. But we also got Across the Spider-Verse is nominated for an Oscar. So
yes. Congratulations to to riff off of the New Heights podcast, and where they congratulated Taylor Swift for being Rookie of the Year and immediately going to the Super Bowl. Congrats to Mayday for her first movie role immediately getting an Oscar nomination. Because that's how queens do.
Exactly. So the other news that has popped up, that literally popped up just a couple of days, yesterday, was
I still, as much as I do believe Near Comics, I don't think that they were trying to lead us astray.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting this information, so it's kind of a bit of a shock.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, there is a Volume 5 trade announcement that happened, and Near Mint Condition.
It didn't die, y'all.
It did not die.
It hasn't died.
Now it has been rebranded, so it's not called the Complete Collection. It's called the Modern Epic Collection Volume 5 Spider-Girl, Keeping the Faith, using I think that's issue 86. or no, 76 is the cover. Excuse me. That they're using. So they get a lot of this information really early. They get this from David Gabriel, who is in charge of the trade department at Marvel. I remember that name very clearly because we used to write letters to him back in the day during the Save Spider-Girl campaign. So I am assuming we'll see a listing on Amazon sooner rather than later. It's probably going to be about 6 months out. But since it's coming from
we'll definitely post it once we do have it. We'll see if we
put
can
the
also
link.
get some Barnes and Nobles and everything else, so that way everyone can pre-order where they want to pre-order. And maybe that's also somebody we need to have on the podcast.
I'm working on
it. Get a different viewpoint of the Save Mayday.
I do want to explain this though really quickly, that they've done away with the complete collection naming scheme, and this is due to the new. I'm assuming this is due to the newer Penguin Press distribution deal that they started back in 21.
Oh yeah, no, it is.
And so now it's called the Modern Era Epic Collection number 5. This is a big deal, as we've mentioned back in the day. The Scholastic Digests only reprinted up until issue 72. That means issues 73 through 100 have never been reprinted in paper form. Obviously, we have them on Marvel Unlimited, but it's never been reprinted. So this collects issues 68 through 84, total of 17 issues like the other complete collections. And I think this was a great collection because it covers the run up to the Black Costume, issue 75, Introduction of Fury, issue 81 with Aftershock, which is one of my personal favorites, and rounding out with the Inside the Beast 3-parter, which is relevant for later on in this episode. If you want to re-listen to our commentaries of these episodes, 22 through 26 cover all those issues. And so supposedly this will be available in November of this year, which means by this time next year, if they do the same thing they've done the last few years, if they do like one release a year, we'll finally get the first volume collected next year. So fingers crossed. If you want to watch that live stream yourself and see what all else is coming out, I'll link it down in the description below. So
yeah. Definitely, because it's pretty cool. Like I said, I still don't really have words for the news because I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, so, I mean, this was something that came out of complete left field. They did do a re-release of the first volume already,
and so we thought it was all starting over again. And
right,
yeah. So but yay.
I'm fine with them jumping ahead. If they can also release, 2 through 4 again, that would be great too. So, we do have a little bit of housekeeping, Kelly, right? About
get to it. Yeah.
Scrolling down.
That's a lot. We have a lot because we've been away. But so yeah, at least for me, before you hand it off to something very important, that I definitely think we need to talk about and highlight, is I do want to iterate that going forward for this year, until me and Zach can kind of get our personal schedules figured out, because like right now I am in my childhood bedroom that my dad uses as storage, so I need to move somewhere where I can have an actual office, and just kind of getting everything kind of back to normal. It's the episodes are going to be monthly, and I think that that's okay for Make Mine Mayday, since we are nearing the stuff that came out last year. And we'll talk a little bit, but Mayday sightings are tapering off a little bit, at least in terms of World 982 Mayday. So these are going to be monthly. They'll kind of be based on the schedule we can keep. We may or may not keep it at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for streaming, just because, especially as we do these, they're probably going to be a little bit longer since they are a month. And I would like to sleep, as I have on one of my visual aids, for anyone just listening in. As we're recording this, it is the night before the Swifty Bowl, the very, very important Swifty Bowl. And I have to pick up some vegetable trays at 9 a.m. So I would like to go to bed. I'm
sorry. My bad.
No, Zach, I will, like, if you start talking about like no more Taylor Swift, I will literally go off on you on how that is such a sexist and wrong take, because you know that it's helping
No,
people,
listen.
newer
I
fans come into the NFL, and it's fun and it doesn't hurt anybody. And what is she doing except being a good girlfriend?
listen. I joke about Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift's not my vibe, okay? But I completely agree with you. I think it's great that there are people that are watching the NFL as a sports person and as a guy that's going to school for sports broadcasting. I see the absolute intrinsic value of her being there. Do I get annoyed by it sometimes? Yes. However, I can do two things at once. I can acknowledge that it's good for the game and
But
that
why
it's
are you
getting more.
annoyed? Like, that's the point. Like, what is she doing? She's not
Well,
making
it's only
anything
because
other than
there's
sitting. She's
well,
in
hang
her
on.
booth.
No, I get that. It's because there's been other girlfriends before that are pop stars, not probably as big of pop stars.
Wait,
I'm a Cowboys fan.
are you still angry at Jessica Simpson? Because again, it's not like she was on the field.
No,
The girl
listen.
was just sitting there.
No, it wasn't Jessica Simpson. Look, I'm not one of those Cowboys fans that still holds a grudge against Jessica Simpson for the
I
Cabo
think
thing.
you are.
No, I'm not. But it's just, I'm like, well, I've seen this song and dance before. No pun intended. So that's my only annoyance about it. It's otherwise, look, I'm a diehard Cowboys fan, but I watched Patrick Mahomes almost every down he played at Texas Tech in college. So I'm always going to have a soft spot for the Chiefs. I also have an eternal hatred for the 49ers. So I hope they lose. So I am pulling for the Swifties today or tomorrow.
I like Purdy. I like his story.
I love Purdy's story.
If he wins, he would be the youngest like quarterback to win a Super Bowl, wouldn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he would. Well, him and Patrick Mahomes would be around the same age, I think. But like in terms of days,
Patrick Mahomes,
age,
I think, is about 2 years older than him.
Yeah,
2 or 3.
I'd have to look. You may be right. I haven't done the research on it. Look, I'll be honest. Purdy's story is Hollywood made for TV.
Yes.
On because it's like
it's a Lifetime movie.
It's a Lifetime movie. A guy gets very. I mean, there's a joke. The last pick of the draft is sort of a joke because they do like a parade and everything, and there's this whole thing about the last pick of the draft called Mr. Irrelevant. The fact that he gets picked, because most of the time when you get to the 7th round, there's a lot of players that don't want to be drafted because that then after the draft they can go and sign with the team that they want to sign with. Tony Romo, a good example of that. And so for him to be drafted by the 49ers as the final pick of the draft and getting the team all the way to the Super Bowl is a remarkable accomplishment. Respect for the 49ers. They were arguably consistently the best team all year, except for like one little stretch. And so it's going to be a good game. I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to Deadpool 3's commercial or the trailer to finally drop.
See, there you go. And I think Beyonce has something.
Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff.
Her famous song that, talks about Annie Mae.
Anime. Yeah. Again, like I'm not a huge Beyonce or Taylor Swift fan, but I can appreciate that I can appreciate the fandom. Let's put it that way. So
yeah. But anyway, I know that was a little off topic. It was just I have to bust your chops on that.
That's fine. That's fine.
But anyway, so yeah,
I made a joke for those that don't know. I made a joke on the Patreon episode last night in the comments, and that's what she's busting my chops for.
Crawl Space Patreon, yeah.
Crawl Space Patreon, yeah.
Yeah. But yes, so basically the show will be monthly going forward until we figure things out, and I think that just gives us enough space, especially as the breakdowns are winding down. And so we do kind of have to start tapering off and taking a little bit longer breaks so we can plan for more episodes and
for different
figure out what you guys want to hear from us and talk more about Spider-Girl in that kind of area and break out and kind of figure out where to go next. So with that, I will leave Zach's housekeeping, which yes is complete tonal shift, and then we got to switch right back to the fun stuff. So, but
yeah,
it'll be fine.
Hopefully I don't get too emotional about this because I haven't talked about this on the show on the network yet, and this is the first time. So, I want to take a moment and acknowledge something that I merely alluded to on the previous live stream we did for SDE. I moved it originally from a Thursday to a Saturday. And that was because I received some news on that day before, that Wednesday, the day before we were supposed to record. My mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. She had went in for a routine mammogram back in December. We knew it was a possibility around Christmas, and she had gone in for a more detailed mammogram. And then she met with a surgeon and an oncologist to confirm the diagnosis. On Monday, this past Monday as of this recording, she underwent a double mastectomy and reconstructive surgery. So unfortunately, my mom doesn't have any short-term disability from her work. I started a Give Send Go in hopes of raising money for her needs as Daisy decides to shake for no reason. I've had a few people in my friends list that have already donated, and I also have had people send her money via Venmo. I'll add links in the description. If you can help, that would be wonderful. But I am happy to report that she is at home. But it's going to be a long few weeks of really hard recovery. And it's been a very stressful time because I'm clear across the state 10 and a half hours. So it's not like I can go help her. So, like I say, thank you in advance if you do decide to donate. If you don't, there's no pressure to. It's just we wanted to get the word out there, and Kelly gave me the platform to do it, and I really appreciate it. So, on a more positive note of housekeeping, thank you to Eric. We had the most views ever on the channel last month, and we hit 500 plus subscribers on YouTube. We're actually more than 500. We're at 560 now, which is even cooler. So we're not quite at the point where we can do super chats and memberships yet, but when we do, we'll let you guys know. No. Sorry.
Well, but yeah, so we're not quite at the point where we can do super chats, but once we can, we will let you guys know. Obviously, you don't have to, unless you want to and can afford to do so, but it will definitely help us, especially as we grow the channel and get bigger. And, obviously this is Make My Mayday is a love of labor project for us. So we don't really make money off of it, and I don't really want to. This was done to kind of make an oral audio history of Spider-Girl. And, there is that, but there's plenty of other great shows on Spider-Do Network that do really need y'all's support as well. And so once we can get that super chats and subscriber stuff, we will definitely let you know.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I've got neighbors moving in next door, so naturally they were doing stuff. The dogs.
That's all right.
Excited. So, yeah, thank you for filling in on that. So, we're going to tonally shift. Hang on. There we go. To the spider history section of the episode. And so strap in, folks. I'm going to be a little long-winded here, and I apologize in advance. So, as we moved through Dan Slott's run, a near annual tradition began to pop up. The event that would, in theory, boost sales as we got to the fourth quarter of the year. Last time we covered what was going on in Amazing was a couple episodes ago with Spider-Verse, and that started in 2014. 2015 saw the Secret Wars reboot, rebooting everything. 2016 is something I'll detail in a minute. Got a brief respite in 2017. And by the time we got to 2018, Nick Spencer's run on ASM started. Chip Zdarsky had also done a run on Spectacular, but he'd already left before this event started, which would normally mean that the book would end with his departure. But no, it stayed through this event so that Nick Spencer's run could be uninterrupted and make this a more Miles Morales-driven event. Also, by the time we got to 2018, Spider-Verse hit the big screen with Miles Morales as the lead character, and the PS4 Insomniac game Spider-Man graced our consoles. This is important to point out for a couple of reasons. Spider-Geddon Zero introduces PS4 Spidey to the multiverse because of one of the primary writers of the game being Christos Gage, with Dan Slott Consulting. And 2, Miles really hadn't had an event since kind of leading the charge in Civil War II. He was supposed to supposedly kill Cap in that storyline. At least that's what they wanted you to think originally. It's a whole weird thing. I'm not going to get into it. But a third thing since Spider-Verse, and specifically since Secret Wars, that we've only briefly touched upon occurred. And that was the introduction of one Annie Mae Parker. So shortly after Spider-Verse ended, Jonathan Hickman, current writer of Ultimate Spider-Man, was wrapping up his time at Marvel with the Secret Wars story, as we mentioned over the last few episodes. Most titles were canceled. Miniseries would replace the ongoings. In the case of Amazing Spider-Man, the 5-issue Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows miniseries saw Peter Parker, Mary Jane, and their young daughter Annie encounter Regent, an omnipotent being that had captured many heroes of that world. Peter had retired from Spidey-ing after unaliving Venom to protect his family. This Spidey briefly was shown to the world in the Spider-Verse #2 issue, wearing the black suit and having a wedding ring on. So after the 5-issue slot series, a new ongoing series was launched on cover date 2017 with Jerry Conway and Ryan Stegman. Conway was famous for his run introducing Punisher, Jackal, Ben Reilly, and the classic Night Gwen Stacy died in Goblin's Last Stand on ASM, with his runs on Web of Spider-Man and Spectacular being felt even today in the books via his introduction of the character of Tombstone. Ryan Stegman cut his teeth as artist who launched the Scarlet Spider-Kane series and his work on Superior Spider-Man. So needless to say, this was a heavy hitter team. That lasted 9 issues. Stegman would come in and take over the writing duties as the writer and did a single arc, wrapping up the first year in the process. But starting with issue 13, a time skip occurs where we were ushered in with a new writer, Jody Houser. And that, a name we discuss a lot here. Annie was originally portrayed as an 8 to 9-year-old before being aged up as a 14-year-old. This book will get another 11 issues before we got to where we are with this particular storyline. Now, I would like to this would be the normally time I would get into the recap, but there's a lot of context we kind of brief forth, because after the events of Secret Wars, Miles Morales was given a new title simply called Spider-Man, which ushered in the new era of Miles Morales being part of the 616. Earth 1910 was destroyed, merged with 616 out of sight of the Maker, who we will talk about on the Ultimate Spidey Dude experience. Additionally, because unfortunately I have to discuss this, there's a lot of Superior Spider-Man in this story. Again, so let me explain what the status quo was and how we got to this point. After the events of Spider-Verse, Dead No More, The Clone Conspiracy was a 6-issue miniseries that came concurrently with Amazing Spider-Man that should have been 7-issue miniseries, but there's no mega issue that ties up everything better than the actual final issue. It's stupid and I hate it. Thanks. A new company called New You is cloning body parts and helping people live longer. At the head of the company is a new Jackal with an Anubis head/mask that shows up reviving the dead. It's not clones, but reanimations. It's really just freaking clones of corpses. That's what it is. Basically, every person who was ever killed ever is revived, and we get people like 616 Gwen, Captain Stacy, Jean DeWolf, who looks suspiciously like her Ultimate counterpart, Ashley Kafka, D-listers like Bart Hamilton, Lucky Donovan, and Mirage, as well as A-listers like Otto Octavius. Who's behind such a morally corrupt concept? Ben Reilly, who didn't die. No. He was viciously murdered with glee by Miles Warren after the 27th death, overtakes Warren and becomes the Jackal, murdering every bit of characterization in the process. Meanwhile, Kane and Gwen see the results of the merging New You and Parker Industries across the multiverse, and that everyone becomes carrion zombie clones. They try to stop Peter, who had finally confronted the new Jackal and revealed to be Ben Reilly, learns that what he was going to do with the last corpse that he had already stolen was going to revive Uncle Ben. Gross. Otto is working with Ben to try to stabilize the clone degeneration factor, which causes the aging of clones and their deaths. There's an Otto and Spidey fight, and eventually Otto fights with the Jackal and says, "Melt with me," because of the Apple Watch replacement called WebWare, which is one of the things that Parker Industries developed in the Marvel Universe. Peter, using the 911 features, sets it to a specific frequency that causes everybody to melt. It's science, and my head is hurting trying to explain it. Otto then transfers his consciousness into a cloned Peter Parker body that was supposed to be Jackal's new body, and that he was going to use after replacing him, again murdering Ben's characterization in the process. This body becomes the Superior Octopus and the anti-hero of San Francisco, which is the home base of New You. Ben and Kane have misadventures in Las Vegas, whose ending gets crap canned because poor Peter David can never escape the multi-part events, ruining his Spider-Man stories in the 21st century. This is the most amount of issues that we'll discuss in a while for in one sitting. So we're going to breeze through the main title of Spider-Geddon because the involvement of Mayday is minimal at the beginning and the rest is set up. I will also list off the books that we will not be discussing for sake of completion. Edge of Spider-Verse 2 through 4, Superior Octopus number 1, Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man 311 through 313, Vault of Spiders 1 through 3, Spider-Verse number 3, Spider-Gwen 1 through 3, and Spider-Geddon 3 and 4, because there's no Mayday. Notable thing about Spider-Force.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say we are only focusing on Mayday's story. There is multiple different facets in Spider-Geddon. It's like spider spaghetti.
True. Very true.
And things don't come together the way they should at the end. We're just going to focus on May's story and kind of her involvement within Spider-Geddon. So we're going to rush through things. We're going to skip over some things. I apologize if you want to hear more about Miles or Gwen and their stories. They're just really not relevant because they're not hanging around Mayday, except for a tiny little bit in the beginning and the end. So just letting you know, because there are some really cool side stories a part of Spider-Geddon, like with Spider-Girls. We're just not focusing on them because this is Make Mine Mayday. And
this would be a 4-hour. This would be a 4-hour long podcast. I mean, it's the same thing if we had done a complete discussion of Spider-Verse. There's so much going on, but with both of those, and this is obviously the sequel to Spider-Verse. And so there's just a lot going on, but I want to give as much context for people as possible because trying to do a rundown and explain even how the Mayday parts are connected is difficult. So this is a Herculean effort for us. So I do want to briefly note, because it has this is a Tom and Ron reference, that this is the first time we've seen Christopher Priest, aka Jim Owsley, write or do anything Spider-Man related with Spider-Force number 1 through 3 since 1987, after he foolishly fired Tom and Ron off ASM. He did other work later, but it's still a crime against Spidey, and I feel like I should acknowledge that. Much as like we've done in the past, like I said, we will have we'll be doing Edge of Spider-Geddon number 1, Spider-Geddon 0, 1 and 2, and Spider-Girls 1 through. I'll be doing Spider-Girls number 1. Then Kelly will do Spider-Girls 2 and 3 and Spider-Gwen number 4.
Mm-hmm. Oh no. Did Zach freeze? Or did I freeze?
There we go. Sorry about the.
There we go.
As I was talking, I looked down and I was seeing the spinny thing. I'm like, before we get started, I want to note where Spider-Verse sort of takes place. Despite being placed before the storyline, it takes place after the main title debuts. So proper reading order is basically Superior Oc 1, Edge 1, Spider-Geddon 0 and 1, and then Edge 1, 2 through 4. Anyway, so Edge of Spider-Geddon number 1. So I'll throw the cover up on the screen. So for those of you that are... Neil, will you throw the cover up on the screen? Thank you. Thank you, Neil.
Neil is behind. Yeah, Neil's behind the background, like behind the scenes today to help us with comments and visual aids. So appreciations to Neil.
Thank you to Neil for being producer. All right. So Edge of Spider-Geddon was a 4-issue miniseries, like I've said, that was used to build up the story, similar to what they did with Edge of Spider-Verse in the first crossover. They also added a 0 issue as a way to build it, as well as a one-shot called Superior Octopus, like I mentioned a second ago. While the original Spider-Verse was a weekly book, this was bi-weekly over August and September. So Edge of Spider-Geddon number 1, as I get my cursor up, written by Jed MacKay, art by Geraldo Sandoval, and this was released August 15th of 2018, cover date October 2018. Basically, the main part of this story is Spider-Punk does things. It's a Spider-Punk story, but Mayday does show up in the issue wearing her original costume. Thank Christ. But don't tell Sandoval that boob socks are not a thing, because sheesh, I forgot to pull the panel because it's a thing.
No, it's obscene. We will get flagged on YouTube, and be
Yeah.
demonetized. I mean, it's not like we're making money, but
Yeah.
like, you know, they'll just
Yeah.
like take us away for being inappropriate. It is.
It's not good artwork.
It's that Bare Naked Lady song got the Boom anime mix that make me think the wrong thing. Like,
Yeah. No, I get. Yeah. It's
ugh.
like I say, there's not much to this issue there, but there is a Mayday appearance. We wanted to acknowledge that. I'm not a huge fan of Sandoval's artwork in general, and this did not help matters for me at all. So very quickly, we'll talk about Spider-Geddon number 0. Throw that up for me, Neil.
Yep.
There's 2 stories in this issue. The first story is called New Players, written by Christos Gage, Clayton Crane. The gist of that particular story is that PS4 Spider-Man encounters the superior Spider-Man. Together, they take on the PS4 version of Tarantula and quickly defeat him. So after some unease, we see PS4 Spidey join the group, and this leads to appearances starting in around issue 3. Story number 2 is the one we'll focus on. So Spider-Man India is creating bots to go into the dystopian wasteland that the inheritors are living in thanks to the events of Spider-Verse. Hobie Brown, aka Spider-Punk, is the first one to do so, making the top of the Spider-Bot, writing on the top of the Spider-Bot saying, "Bite it, you scum." There are some good jokes here with Punk saying that they shouldn't check in on these people. And there's a Sims joke that I thought was a Sims joke, but it's the Sims building. So, yeah, Kelly kind of corrected me later in the notes. We see the passage of time on the face of Spider-Man India as his hair and beard grow over the pages. 7 months pass before we start to see the story to the end. And as the first one on the first page was the 23rd bot, by this time we see Mayday, and it is bot number 35. Spider-Man India is thankful that Mayday is taking over, and they remark that Hobie is the worst Spider-Man. They joke that he should feel right at home with a bombed-out radioactive hell zone. They see Deimos, and May remarks that he's lost some weight, wondering if it's paleo. Each time
That was a bad joke.
That's a really bad dad joke. Each time they progressively have lost weight when we've seen them, because we see them three separate times, and it seems like they're wasting away. I guess they ran out of the radioactive bugs to eat. I don't know. Other than appearing in the final splash page by Baldion saying, "Spider-Geddon takes place 2 weeks from now." No other appearances by Mayday.
Yeah, I just want to mention about the joking and why I started laughing, because it's low-key shading Uncle Bunker Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Uncle Bunker Ben, Archie
yeah.
Bunker. Yeah, so
he just died.
Yeah, I mean, I don't come on, May. I know you've been through a lot, but
well, I mean, even the paleo joke is bad. We'll talk about this, but it's men trying to write Mayday and Spider-Geddon just does not flow well for some reason.
Artwork is not great, by the way.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great.
I did pull some of the panels for it. All right, so then we'll get to Spider-Geddon number 1, which hopefully, I say it should be. We say it should be quick, but there's so much going on here. Written by Christos Gage, based on a story by Dan Slott, art by Jorge Molina, who did the pencils and the inks. This was released on October 10th, 2018. Cover date December 8th, 2018. Our issue opens with Miles fighting the Vulturians, who are villains way back from the original Web of Spider-Man number 1. When suddenly the time dilation portal opens, and we see a big splash page of Spider UK, Octavia Otto, Spider-Gwen, Spider-Noir, Spider-Punk, Spider-Ham, and the Spider-Woman, aka Mayday. Miles remarks that the last time he saw this many Spideys is when the Inheritors showed up. Gwen says that they are looking for someone using their tech. Who would be crazy enough to do that? Well, that would be Otto Octavius. Because he's such an arrogant jerk.
What?
I said I changed it.
I'm not gonna stop you.
Because he's an arrogant prick, okay? Anyway, he's fighting Count Nefaria at the Golden State Bridge and he comes to a deal with him. Otto is combining the resources of New You and the Inheritors, because this will end really so well. After a tribute to the co-creator of Ghost Rider, Gary Frederick, we get the Web Warriors going to the secret lair. Octavia thinks that if they just talk to Otto, maybe he will see reason. Oh, you poor sweet honey child. May kind of says that she wishes she could go talk to him too, but time is of the essence. After they arrive, they are quickly captured by some goo. Miles is like, bro, you got to quit doing this, man. Hadoa says everything is fine. Basically, they start fighting. Octavia says, bro, you got played. And it turns out Moreland has returned. He quickly kills Spider-Man Noir. Sorry, Nick Cage. You won't make it to the sequel. Or through the sequel, rather. UK says there is only one. Maybe they got this. And snap, crackle, pop. He is also killed. Spider UK is made like a Gwen Stacy. And also dead. Turns out that Ock isn't a totem at all. He's just a pretender, according to the inheritors. Anyway, the issue ends with Genix, Verna, and Moreland having the upper hand. So, not much, again, happening with Mayday, other than noting that she is in her original costume here. So, yay, finally.
Yeah, as we know, didn't last long. I mean, she was in their Spider-Woman suit in most of Web Warriors, but I've almost blocked that out again.
Yeah. Literally the other time we see that suit is when Baldion did that 2-page splash at the Edge of Spider-Verse. So
yes, yeah.
He didn't get the memo, apparently.
Yeah, no.
So
anyway.
we then cut to Spider-Verse #2. Also going to be a quick recap. Written by Gage, Slott.
You mean Spider-Geddon.
Spider-Geddon. What did I say? Spider-Girls?
Verse.
Oh, Spider-Verse. Well, I mean, it's Spider-Verse 2, Electric Boogaloo. Really. Genix and Verna are about to attack. Same creative team, except the inks are different. Jay Liston, Craig Young, and Roberto Boji was the inkers. Released on October 24th, 2018. December 18 is the cover date. Genix and Verna are about to attack the remaining Web Warriors. May and Miles leap into action in a great panel by Melina. Gwen yells at Otto for about a self-destruct sequence. The fight continues. May remarks to Gwen not to sacrifice herself, but she's got her watch thing. She'll just port away at the last second. They then web up a wall and run. Genix sucks some of the life force away before she realizes that Gwen has a symbiote. The lab blows away, and Miles is big sad. Mayday thinks that she's not dead. Miles is about to beat the living crap out of Otto, only to be held back literally by Mayday. Gwen is teleported to another universe. Spoilers, she will have her own title. Punk says that they need help. The group goes to Loom World, aka Earth's 001. Miles thinks that they need Peter. May says that she thinks they need Anya. Otto and Punk kind of feel that by bringing them here, they'll slow them down again. We get them splitting up to go off to their own adventures. And Verna is on Loom World, and they're Karn and her about to fight. Otto changes into his Superior Spider-Man costume from the Superior Octopus costume. Basically, the events of Spider-Verse 2 through 4 occur with Ham and the crew, while Miles and Peter battle Moreland. Otto's finding his PS4 Spidey and does his thing while recruiting Kane and getting a bonus Scarlet Spider for his troubles. Karn eventually dies again, and Gwen is actually, in fact, alive. Mayday goes to find Anya, and that is the end of the issue.
Okay, so you didn't quite you could have focused a little bit more on May's scenes. Because obviously this is the setup of the big split in the series. Mm-hmm. And I do want to highlight the way Miles and May really have Gwen's back. And it seems like it's those three against the rest of them half the time. Not like in a bad way, just in they seemingly work very, very well together and kind of stay towards the back of most of these Web Warrior shenanigans at this point.
Yeah.
And they are also the most affected by what happens to Gwen. There was the moment where Miles drags May out from being able to save Gwen, basically saying, hey, Gwen can take care of herself, to the, Miles is like, oh my God, I'm going to kill Otto. And May's like, hey, hold on. Like, that's not quite right. Like, I'm sure she's fine, just like she was last time in Web Warriors.
Yeah, but Miles wasn't there for that, to be fair to Miles.
No, he wasn't.
Right.
To be fair to Miles, he wasn't. And see, that's kind of also, but it's like, it's very much those three constantly having to keep each other in check. Which I think is a very interesting dynamic that we just don't see again.
Yes.
But it's, to me, I really wish something more was done with that, because I think it was intentionally done to kind of soothe the people that were upset over Miles and Gwen, thinking that they kind of took Mayday's place a little bit, and they kind of did, but not really. We know the whole Spider-Gwen discourse among Spider-Girl fans, but ultimately, there's really not a whole lot here beyond that. This is the setup, basically saying we need more spiders for this sequel. And with them branching off, we finally get some focus on Mayday in the sense, and we do get a new writer to handle Mayday and maybe not have some of this clunky dialogue within I wrote Brand New Day, but in Renew Your Vows, Jodie Hauser.
I noticed that. I was going to make a joke about that. I was like, I don't think she was.
I don't know why. My brain. Who wrote Spider-Girls as a coda, a true goodbye to Renew Your Vows, as it had ended about less than a year prior. And I want to stress that because while May is highlighted here, and especially they're using Spider-Girls and in marketing, and just fan discourse was just so excited about Mayday. This is Annie's story. This is a Renew Your Vows story. May is a supporting character. She's a highlighted main supporting character, but this is still Annie's story, and it's wrapping up the loose ends from when we last left off of Renew Your Vows. And so with that preset, I'm going to let Zach go ahead and start his breakdown of Spider-Girls issue 1.
All right. So Spider-Girls number 1, written by Jodie Hauser, Andres Guinolet. I probably butchered that name. Colorist is Tatiana Farrell. Released on October 24th, 2018, December cover date of that same year. So we're in the main event of the episode, obviously, as Kelly alluded to. So our issue opens with our new friend Annie May in the midst of a chase between her and Kid Vulture of the Vulture Gang. Mom and Dad got the others tied up, and the trio of spiders are suddenly heading home. Now, for context, I feel like I have to give you context here in this recap because the issues do a good job telling you what's going on, but I recommend you reading Renew Your Vows to get the full story. Basically, Annie's powers, specifically her spider sense, have evolved almost to precognition levels. She's been seeing something, but she can't quite put her finger on it. Big flash of light, and Annie is suddenly following. Peter makes a joke about attracting trouble within a 100-mile radius before she fainted. Peter catches her and they go to a roof. They head home and the other heroines show up, Anya and Mayday. They remark how quiet it is and how they must have beaten the inheritors here. Anya remarks that there is an insanely strong tie to the web of life and destiny, and May wonders how they find them. May remarks that she kind of needs a minute because it's been a while since the city looked normal to her. May wonders if the person in NYC and Anya May wonders if the person is in New York City, and Anya wonders how the inheritors missed this place last time, wondering aloud if they've got a new spider in place. May then sees the news on the screen, a whole family of spiders, but it doesn't look like Mayday, Anya says. And suddenly she wonders if May is okay. May, taken aback, says she's fine. Now that they know what they're looking for, it's time to go find them. Meanwhile, at the Parker apartment, Annie says that she's fine. MJ has given her an ice pack, and Peter says that maybe Annie needs a break. Annie doesn't take this well, remarks that she knows that something big and bad is coming, and she feels like it's an all-hands-on-deck situation. Peter makes a kitty leash dad joke, but Peter's kind of half serious, and Annie says that her job is protecting people, and she understands that it's MJ's and Peter's job to protect her, cutting herself off. She says that they need to suit up. More Vulture Gang members are afoot, and Mayday calls them mere distractions. Mayday is focused, but Anya knows something is wrong. Mayday is suddenly worried about her brother again when a web line is cut. More vultures. What did Toombs do? Put this out there in the public domain like Steamboat Willie? What's going on here? Peter, Annie, and MJ arrive, and Peter asks if they could just go straight to the team up, which is fair because they've only got 6 or 7 more pages, and we've got some big exposition coming. A big 2-page splash occurs detailing the fight. The vultures are done away with in due time. Peter wants some answers and hopes and prays, basically, that it's not clones. May unmasks herself and reveals her short hair like from the early days. Peter and MJ are shocked. May wonders if there is a place to talk. Shortly thereafter, at the Parker apartment, May and Anya explain Spider-Verse to Peter and MJ. Maybe they'd listen to Make My Mayday episode 56 for more information. Annie wonders why they hadn't come here. Peter is pacing the walls while Anya pulls the scrolls out. Turns out that Annie can almost feel and hear them, and Anya and Mayday realize that Annie is the key. Oh, sorry. I lost my place. All right.
Oh no.
Meanwhile, MJ is off in the corner. Annie goes to comfort her, asking if her big sister that she never knew was named May too. MJ confirms. Annie wonders if she lived in another universe. If did it help or hurt her mom? MJ and Peter plan to split up and join the bigger fight. They ask Mayday and Anya to watch out for Annie and for her to figure things out with the scrolls. Mayday asks if they understand the danger, but Peter says he understands and sympathizes with Mayday's concerns. MJ wonders if Annie can hold down the fort by herself, while Annie is keen to get started. With that, I turn it over to Kelly. Kelly, your thoughts?
Yeah. So this is a great setup and helps not only bridge some of the gaps between the last issue of Renew Your Vows to now, but also helps anyone who's never read Renew Your Vows before this understand the world we're walking into. And I think that is a huge it's a very huge compliment to Jody. It definitely shows that she knows how to write, because let's be fair, the previous people that previous issues we just read don't quite do that enough. And so like it's real easy, they're not dumbing anything down, but they're giving you the explanation. And I really do like that. I hate reading that Annie can kind of hear how sad May is in her voice, or how Renew Your Vows MJ has to take a moment to break down because this baby girl she lost is now just standing in front of her at the same age Annie is. Mm-hmm. And it's something I'm sure that MJ has thought of a lot about as Annie was growing up, like who that baby would have been. So that's very shocking and hard. And again, I still just do not like Renew Your Vows Peter, and I think he's almost dismissive of May's warnings. Like he gets where she's coming from, but the lack of compassion towards her, like, we're seeing already between what Annie and MJ are doing with May is odd, to say the least, but it's actually not out of character for this world's Peter, which again shows how out of character this world's Peter is, because that's just... It's not the time to crack jokes, man. And, I just hate this for May because it is so sad that after everything she's gone through, she walks into this world to see another spider family similar to her own, and all she wants to do is keep them safe. She just does not want that family to be destroyed like how she feels her family has been. We see her a bit harden from what she's been going through. Not that that's out of character, like some people like to bring up, mind you, because whenever, this should be happening. She's gone through an extreme trauma. She's not the same person we saw in Spider-Girls. Because now it's like when she's kind of over the game, so to speak, she's going to, she did this even in Spider-Girls. Once she's over it, she's going to really end the fight very quickly. And so she's always going to fight and subdue everybody really fast. But the soldier line, like what I call a soldier line of saying, oh, these the gang of vultures is distractions, is heartbreaking. It's not unlike her. It's not unlike her father. It's not unlike the Peter we know to act like this when he's having, going through a lot. It's a very Peter line and a Peter feeling when he's worn down and over it. But it's just sad. It's sad to see. She's had to grow up too soon, and she isn't allowed to break down the way she really needs to, because once again, this threat is still there. She thought it was over, and it's not. And I think Jody does a great job of giving that to us while focusing on Annie and how Annie is so quick. Like the juxtaposition of Annie being just wanting so badly to grow up. And she's even calling Spiderling her baby name, and how she doesn't want to be Spiderling anymore and she wants to be her own person. But ultimately, Annie's really not ready for that kind of situation. And it, is still very innocent. And so when you compare these girls together, it's very clear to me that May wants nothing more than to protect this girl she just met from a fate similar to hers. And I could rant all about this all day, but it's a very bittersweetness to this issue, because it's like, oh yeah, we are finally getting May. May is being written with care and respect, but we're getting the May that's had to deal with everything since Spider-Verse, and it is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And so it's the issue is sad. It's a great setup. It's a great story setup, but it's sad in terms of of Mayday.
So just for everybody to know, Renew Your Vows, the last issue was issue 23, and it came out a month before this one. So it's literally like,
I thought it was like a month or two. Like there was
Yeah.
like some gap or something.
yeah, there really wasn't much of
That's why I was like less than a year, because I bet you I'm wrong if I say like less than
No.
6 months.
Yeah, no, I went to Mike'sAmazingWorld.com. Shout out to the people that are still maintaining that site since Mike
Yes,
passed
thank
away.
you.
So I'm going to be honest from my thoughts. I was shocked that when they referenced May in the Renew Your Vows series. As someone who obviously started reading the Clone Saga, and as someone who adores Mayday, I feel like I've always been frustrated with how Marvel likes to pretend that Baby May was never a thing. That Norman and the 616 didn't facilitate her death, because we have to reference Gwen every time Norman appears afterwards, which I'm sorry, taking the life of your baby, in my opinion, supersedes, or at least on par with taking the life of your girlfriend. Outside of literally a couple references by DeMatteis and Tom DeFalco, and for like the only time in the 21st century, Mark Millar of all people, this was so nice and heartbreaking equally to see. Not to get terribly personal, but you always play a what if game when you lose a child. I've seen it. I've had these discussions with my mom over the years, specifically concerning my sister. And so I can't imagine what a shock to the system it is for MJ to see.
Uh-oh. Zach, come back.
Hang on. I think he froze. Oh no.
Yeah. I don't want to read his notes for him.
Wait, he's back.
Are you
There
back?
we go.
I'm back.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Okay, so you cut basically
cut?
after talking about your sister. So I can't imagine.
Okay, so I can't imagine what a shock to the system it is for MJ to see her appear what if appear in some form. Arguably, it's one of the best scenes of the 3 issues, and it's extremely well done by Jody. The other thing that I really enjoyed is how they really do ask the question of how they missed this Earth back in Spider-Verse. Of course, in real life, we know it's because the Earth didn't exist. But I do like that through Anya, they acknowledge that. I thought that was very clever, and it's a very subtle way of, bringing. She does a really good job with the setup on this issue.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, Jody Houser knows how to write and actually cares about these characters.
Yes.
Speaking of us like having inklings that she is a very clear Spider-Girl fan, let's get into
Kelly,
issue 2.
From here on, Kelly is going to be doing the recaps, and I'm just going to sit here with my popcorn and munch, and we'll stop between the issues.
It'll be a fun time. This is the fun side. I made you do all the boring stuff.
Yeah, I get to do all the setup, and she gets to do all the fun. Like, which is fun.
I did give you issue 1.
You did give me issue 1. I appreciate giving me issue 1.
All right. So, without further ado, issue 2 of Spider-Girls, written by Jody Houser, art by Andres Ginolet, colorist Tyona Farrell and Jem Karalampidis, released on November 28th, 2018, cover date January 2019. Peter and MJ leave to go off to the main book for the big Spider-Geddon fight, while Annie stays behind to help figure out if she can use her powers to get some answers from the scrolls. MJ asks May specifically to watch after Annie, and May says, of course. May please again for Pete and MJ to not underestimate the inheritors, clearly wanting to say more, but doesn't want to say any more than she should. As her parents leave, Annie asks what she needs to do with the scrolls, and Anya advises she needs time to figure out Annie's connection with the scrolls to figure out what they need to do. May asks if there's any other spiders in her world, and well, Annie has to explain how that's a bit complicated. At the end of Renew Your Vows, something a little crazy happened that we kind of touched on in spider history with the jackal and mixing Annie's DNA and turning people into giant spiders. And well, in Annie's world, Normie Osborn still has 6 arms from this situation, and it's shenanigans. We cut to him finishing a board meeting virtually. He's a bit over the whole 4 extra limbs and doesn't really know what to do. May's kind of in shock of this bit, which makes Annie ask if May has a Normie in her world too. And we get one of the best yet worst. I'm going to call it flashbacks. It's not quite a comic swipe, but close. Or images that I have ever seen. Like, and I asked Zach to put it up, but Neil's behind the scenes. Yes. So please leave this here. Leave this here for a second. For anybody on the audio editions, I am pulling up the infamous page of Spider-Girls #2 that has some very striking flashbacks here, and we're gonna get into it because I can't. This is my Roman Empire. I will always think about this page. I want to know how this came to be, how this existed, and we're gonna break this down now. We're just gonna stop and we're gonna talk about this because we have to.
I said earlier that this was the main that where we started the no, this is the main event of the episode. This is where we're at right here. This is the main event.
It really is. It really is. So anyway, let's talk about this page. So as May tells Annie, Normie's just a good friend and gives us a rundown of Normie's redemption in World 982, which I'm still confused to by this day why this was needed, unless Jody ships Mayday Normie, which look, yes and no. I've talked about this. Like, on one hand, yes, chemistry off the chain, but also no, because it just would never end in a good way. But we've talked about this, and maybe we can do a fan canon shipping trash take episode one of these days, because Jody, I see you, I feel this, but this is not the way. Anyway, this panel. First, let's break down these flashbacks. And I'm calling them flashbacks and not quite comic swipes, but they are mighty close, and we're going to show you why. But first flashback panel is from issue 100, when May was dying and Venom was trying to heal her wounds. And Normie and her got that subconscious one-on-one where Normie straight up says he isn't in love with May and he still wants to marry Brenda. Only now in this flashback, May is no longer wearing the yellow t-shirt and is very clearly in a nude colored bra.
Yeah.
Where did her shirt go? This is my Roman Empire. Where did her shirt go? I need to know.
Well, and then Kelly got mad at me because I had blown up this particular panel, and she's like, "No, I want the full page."
Yes, because we're going to talk about other panels in here. Like that's the one that like I need to know, because that's kind of where, because from what I understand, the artist English is not their first language. And I get the feeling that they weren't a Spider-Girl fan. And if they pulled the original image, Neil, if you can bring that back up, of issue 100, she clearly has the shirt. Okay, that is, look at that shirt that Pat Olive drew. Look at that shirt. It's not like a crop top. It's not a tight shirt. It is like a t-shirt.
Yeah, I included another page in there too.
When they're drawing it,
yeah.
Where can we go back to the Spider-Girls page, please, Neil? Where did the shirt where did the shirt go? Where did it go?
We got questions.
May, where did this go in your memory? Where did it go?
The perspective of May thinking about this. Oh no. May. Oh.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It has to be because it like the only other person that could be thinking this would be Annie, and it's like, why would Annie be thinking? Like, why would Annie see these? There's two. Like, this looks like this is coming from her head, and I have questions. But in any case, let's move on to the second panel. This thing that brings me such joy. So we see this redraw in the second panel of Normie looking into the mirror, but because he's looking in the mirror, his tattoo that says revenge is I guess backwards on him, because we're looking at him looking at himself in the mirror. That should not look like revenge. That should be backwards. But this is a play off of a page in What If 105.
Yep.
That I guess you could interpret he was looking at a mirror, but we don't actually see the mirror. So we don't know if he's just like standing around, he's just like contemplating things, looking out a window or whatever. Neil, if you want to show the original page from What If 105, if that is in the Rolodex, I hope it is. Yes. All right. So, where we get this and like, see, we don't really see a mirror. He's just kind of standing around like candles and obviously listening to the Lion King soundtrack. We know this.
Yes.
With his dreads, which they thankfully didn't recreate, although they should have if they were going to have the tattoo be backwards. Really should have had the white kid dreads. Like I would have wanted that. But there is no mirror.
I can just hear.
So where did we get this mirror?
Yeah, I can hear "Be prepared" every time I see this page.
Yeah, because it's he's off.
Jeremy
Osborn is a Disney adult. We know this.
Yes.
But,
sorry, canon.
I feel like it just is canon. But yeah, no. So if we go back to the Spider-Girl's page, why is he in the mirror? Why is this backwards? Like, this is such chaos and brings me such joy, but in the wrong way. And I will never not think about this page.
No, and when she says this, ladies and gentlemen, behind the scenes, we've talked about this page several times. This is not like this just came up because we're rereading this story. This has been something that has been a stick in
I have talked about this page so much. I believe I've even had a discussion about this with the amazing Ron Friends, whose art is not swiped, but it's kind of swiped in here.
It's homaged.
What kind of homage is this? It's very corny.
It's a funhouse mirror homage.
Yeah, I think it'd be funny if May is imagining Normie LARPing in a mirror with Engever tattooed on his chest.
It gives me that bit from We Are the Millers, like the no regrets. Like, yes,
there it is.
Thank you, Neil. For audio listeners, we just posted the scene, which again, long hair was needed for that. Like,
that does track.
But if we can, and then of course the last third panel, just so people do understand, if you're just tuning in or you haven't fully read the Spider-Girl series, we do get a panel kind of doing an homage to when Normie bonded with the Venom symbiote and became a superhero in his own right, but instead of that dusk looking super chin, it's very much more reminiscent of when Peter was wearing the black suit, which I think is a cool take on that.
Yeah.
It kind of like makes you feel like, he deserves almost basically kind of showing you like he is a spider person in May's world, which, I'm not opposed to saying Normie is a spider person, considering at least MC2, he funds a lot of the superheroes. He's the man in the chair. He's the tech guy for not just May, but also the Warriors. So, he deserves a spider person title. But I do think about this page a lot. And I really need to know where that shirt went. Jody, let us know. Somebody gave him a direction. Someone gave the artist a
Listen,
direction.
I'm trying to get a list of people. I will try to get Jody on here so we can talk about this book.
She will never come on.
Yeah, you just bring her on the StreamYard and go, "Hey Jody, so what's over that page with shirtless May and Normie? Talk about that, please."
Listen, we may have to make some shorts out of this entire bit here, okay?
I need to know. It's my Roman Empire. But we'll leave this page be and go on with the story.
I'm gonna leave it on here. I'm gonna leave it up here just so your Roman Empire never goes away.
Oh,
thank you.
Oh,
cool. God. All right, but anyway, I don't really know how we can move on. Like this is what I wrote in my notes. I don't really know how we can move on from this because this is my Roman Empire. And I'm still wondering what happened to her shirt in that panel, but we do need to move on. Annie says that May's Normie sounds a lot like her Normie, and they both turn to look at Anya, but Anya doesn't really have any stories about at the point of this writing, he was 7 in the comics. Yeah. She doesn't really have like a bunch of stories about a 7-year-old in her world. So that doesn't
and she has no ties to the Osborns, and she's never met the Osborns ever. Yeah. So yeah.
It's funny because she has to remind them. She's like, y'all know not every spider person is a Parker, right?
I think that's yeah.
But May really kind of takes the lead in heading towards Oscorp. But Annie kind of has to like pull her back and asks the others to like stand back for a second while she eases her Normie into all this. As in her world, Normie doesn't know Spider-Link's secret identity, isn't really connected in that way, and isn't really, especially like as he got older, is not really vibing in the whole superhero thing. He just wants to be a businessman, and have a crush on Spider-Link. Anyway, again, Jody projection. But anyway, as Anya and May wait, Anya can sense that May is weirded out by all of this, which I mean, obviously, and how this world feels, and May kind of tells her that this world feels like how her world used to feel, which is a bit of a stretch, but all right, I'll allow it for a second. But May shakes it off. She knows she needs to keep her head in the game to make sure that Annie is safe. Meanwhile, Bora and Brix, the inheritor twins, have found the world and are on the hunt for a spider meal. We cut back to the girls, not now in Normie's office, and he's having a hard time wrapping his mind around the multiverse and space vampires. Anya astutely makes note that the dude that doesn't seem to believe them has 6 arms. And anyway, he agrees that that's a point. Then Anya tries to explain the magic scrolls, something again that Mr. Six Arms just does not seem to be able to wrap his head around. And Annie has to step in to calm Normie down and ask him about the rest of the spider mutants from the end of Renew Your Vows, because they might be targeted too. We see basically kind of what happened to those mutants. They were basically imprisoned in an Oscorp lab. If they were okay enough to stand trial, then they're at Rikers for the damage that they caused. Otherwise, they are sequestered into this old, unrenovated Oscorp lab. May has her hand over her mouth in disbelief that this is real because, let's face it, this is pretty screwed up. This is body horror galore. This is the first time May's seen a giant spider. I'm letting this sit for a second. It's not foreboding. It's not a foreshadow. It's not a foreshadowing.
It's accidental.
Maybe, who knows?
Accidental foreshadowing.
But yes, we're not done yet, Neil.
I know. I changed.
We're not done yet.
Neil's out of. He had to go check on something, so I'm.
Oh, okay. Well, we're not done yet. But anyway.
All right, I'll put it back.
Yeah. No. All right. So Body horror galore. So May tries to get them back on track to figure out what to do with the scrolls and their connection to Annie. So Normie shows them a conference room, and Annie explores what she can see from the scrolls as she pushes herself to see something beyond the void. And then something starts happening to Normie and all the spider mutants. Normie mutates into a giant spider. And as May tries to talk to Normie like she'd do with her Normie, the bond there is not there because it's not her Normie.
Right.
She can't talk him out of this. And this Normie just makes a run for it and immediately hops into the Oscorp lab with the rest of the spiders. The Spider Sisters go running off, chasing Normie, and tries to find him in the huge group of spider mutants. But before they can do anything, the Inheritor twins jump in, excited for their pick of a meal to be concluded. So, Zach, what are your thoughts?
I mean, in my thoughts, I said we should pull the pages from the issue, which I went ahead and did, obviously. For me, I don't disagree with the overall thoughts. Like, kind of you pepper your thoughts in through your recap. And it kind of suffers from middle issue syndrome a little bit in a way. I feel like the artwork is really good, save for the really awkward panel.
Okay, look, the artwork's fantastic. The issue is there were artistic choices that
we must acknowledge and learn more about.
Yes.
I do like that Jody is trying to give a bit of a contrast between Annie and May in a weird way. This is kind of like the Funhouse mirror version of May in a way. Like, what if May had gotten her powers from birth? And what if her father was basically the total opposite of her dad? So it's nice to see that there is a trust there with Annie and Peter. And I can understand what you're saying, how it is out of character. And I can understand how some would feel that he should have been this way with Mayday in Earth 982. If you read this and then go back and read Peter instead of the opposite way, I can see where people might try to argue this, but that's not really how Peter is. And in my opinion, because it's an alternate universe, you can get away with that. But when you have Tom DeFalco, who knows more about who's forgotten more about Spider-Man than some people know, writing Peter Parker, then it's kind of difficult for us to reset. I guess it's kind of giving us a feeling of like we're doing this as a family. I don't know. I think I'll be able to discuss this a little bit more at the end after we get through towards the next issue. But yeah, that's kind of my overall thoughts. And we'll get back to the Spider-Girls 3 recap.
Yes. Well, I do want to like at least touch base as
normal. Go ahead and touch base with your
kind
thoughts,
of our normal issues. These are our normal like issues that we know the people really want to hear. And I agree with you. It does sort of suffer from the middle syndrome, I guess. But at the same time, it flows really well. Like when you read all three together, it flows very, very, very well. And I don't think that, the fact that this only has 3 issues, most of these minis now will have 4, 5. 3 is very specific and very short.
Yes.
So I think ultimately, like, as fluid as this does feel is a testament to the team and to Jody in getting these issues blocked and like ready to go. And so I commend them on that.
Yeah, because I'll be honest, they definitely don't do that really well moving forward. They want to do 4 issues. And to me, some of those issues, some of those miniseries, even with like current stuff, if they could cut it down an issue and tighten it up, I think it flows much better as a story.
Yeah, but the issue is that they really want like 4 to 5, something that would make a good trade back, because even this trade back has added things like what we're bringing into it. We're technically talking about the entire trade back of Spider-Girls.
The omnibus is 26 parts. Well, the Spider-Geddon omnibus that exists is a 26-part trade. So it's huge.
this was a very tiny story amongst the rest of everything. But yeah, so with that, let's go to the last issue of Spider-Girls. Written by Jody Houser, art by Andres Ginolette, colorist by Teona Farrell, released on December 12th, 2018, cover dated February 2019. Annie thinks back on her journey. She was born with powers. She's always used them and lived in a world with powers and monsters and costumes. But this situation right here, with evil space vampires and giant spiders made of her DNA, this is weird. This is very weird. Anya pushes the scrolls into Annie's hands and tells her to focus on connecting with these scrolls, because what in the long run, that's going to hurt the inheritors far more than punching them down. And as Annie tries to underestimate the Hot Topic rejects, May tells her to stop making light of this, that this isn't the time to quip. The inheritors are more dangerous than they look. Annie gets mad at the fact that the other girls are just not budging on letting her go out and fight these vampires. That they want her to stay back. But Annie relents and shows the girls where Normie keeps his toys. His science tech toys. Get your mind out of the gutter. I realized that the last issue kind of makes you question, but normal science tech
So
toys.
that's why Annie was the one.
Shush.
Continue. I'm gonna mute. I wasn't thinking that, but thanks, Kelly.
You're welcome. So I feel like I have to clear. Yes. All right. Anyway, they make it to the room, but Annie forgot it's locked and she doesn't know how to hack into the system. May offers that maybe if the three of them just use their strength together, they can pull the doors off the hinges. And so that's what they do. The inheritors fight the big giant spiders, and one major one that really gives them a run for the money, and I assume is Normie, is putting up a major fight against them in his big spider form. And thankfully, Anya and May come in with a goblin mech suit and blast radioactive zaps at Bora and Brix. Annie goes to a corner in some office and does everything she can to connect to the scrolls. And with that fantastic Parker determination, she does. Meanwhile, the radioactive waves did absolutely nothing to the twins. And as they attack the mech suit, the giant spiders are turned back into humans, and their spider light spirit, whatever, is floating as this bright white light as it's lifted off of them, heading towards the scrolls. The girls, Anya and May, sneak out of the suit and rush back towards Annie, who is now in front of a portal. They all three jump into the portal and wind up in what's left of Loom World. Annie advises one of the scrolls was the portal that took them to Loom World, and the new scroll, or this newer scroll, has changed, now featuring a totem called the Pattern Maker. It's now the Other, the Bride, the Scion, and the Pattern Maker in terms of the totems. Annie senses that she must be the Pattern Maker and doesn't know how she feels about that, or about being a totem in general. May brings up how her baby brother is the Scion and he's a literal baby. Being a Parker kid isn't easy, but she promises Annie that they'll figure it out. Annie tells May about how her mother lost a baby before she, Annie, was born. A baby that they named May. And while she knows our May isn't her older sister, it's nice to know what she might have been like and that she would have been a hero exactly like our May. May hugs Annie tight and reminds her that they're Parkers, and that counts for a lot in any universe. And hey, the web connects all the spiders, right? This heart-to-heart gives Anya the revelation we need to figure out the remaining scroll and come up with a plan. The girls take what's left of the web of destiny, or web of life. I kept writing destiny, but the web of life.
It's life and destiny. That's correct.
Life and whatever.
Yeah.
And thinks that if Annie is the Pattern Maker, then she might be able to reconnect the pieces and strengthen the connections between all the spiders. Annie takes the last scroll and uses it to make a portal to the 616 so they can join the fight and use this plan to fix the web of Life and Destiny, to be concluded in Spider-Geddon issue 5. Zach, what are your thoughts?
So I feel like this does a really good job of trying to tie up the loose ends of the Renew Your Vows series. Obviously, we say that it's, takes place very shortly after, while it's also trying to work its way into the overall Spider-Geddon story. Unlike most of the tie-ins that you get with these events or series that had to wrap up because of this, I'm looking at you, final issues of Ben Reilly's Grow Out Spider. This seamlessly feels like they gave Jodie orders to just incorporate the other girls, but allow her to finish her story, which is extremely nice. Very rarely have we seen that in modern Marvel publishing, and it's high. I put a trademark. It's highly refreshing here. I do want to touch upon Anya for a second here, because she really plays just a fractional role in these 3 issues. It's an important one, but after issue 1, where she helps Mayday get to this place and they kind of meet the Parkers, she's kind of only an accessory to this story. The star is Annie, but then the first supporting cast member is Mayday. And I feel for Anya fans if they feel like that she didn't do a lot here, but she does play a role because she helps Annie understand that she's a totem and kind of helps lead her that way. So that's kind of her big portion of the story. And I wanted to touch upon that in my notes. So, Kelly, your overall thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love Spider-Girls in the sense that I think for Renew Your Vows, it does a great job at tying up loose ends and kind of really saying goodbye. But in terms of like for May, like I said, this is the most care I think she's been given post a Tom DeFalco world. And it, like, I mean, I just don't know what to say other than, I'm very thankful for Jodie. But it's not anywhere near what I would say is perfect. But of course, at this point, she's writing a battered and bruised Mayday that is just sad. And I think like the scene where they're hugging and they're crying and kind of calling themselves sisters in a way, that was kind of Jodie in her own way passing the torch. Because I think a lot of her part of Renew Your Vows is heavily influenced by Spider-Girl. And I don't think that was lost on her. So I think that that's kind of where that scene is coming in. And like I said, and we keep touching base on it, it's especially in Spider-Geddon, May's sole purpose is to just pass torches and say, like, it's okay. I'm happy with you being in my life. See, guys, like, they're cool. These characters are cool. And I mean, on one hand, I think that it's a very May thing to do, to make friends.
Yes.
And, as a character, that makes total sense. And I'm totally for it. It's just when you're constantly getting beaten over the head because it's literally every single character she's interacting with, it starts to feel like, okay, was that like kind of mandated because we're slowly phasing her out? Which, I mean, we'll get into on whether that's the right direction or the wrong direction. Kind of at our final thoughts on this. But, that kind of was feeling that way here. Because it was like, hey, Annie, you can take the lead now. Because the entire time, the rest of this, May's kind of running the show.
Yeah, and there's a bit of catharsis, I think, with that scene in particular. I mean, you saw me giving the big upper lip.
Well, it is. It's not done in a. It's definitely in a heartfelt sense. Like, I think it makes a lot of sense in story, also just out of story, of kind of saying like, yes, you Renew Your Vows wouldn't be here without Spider-Girl, but you can be the daughter now. Like, you can be the lead here.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a step back, which we'll get into, because that is always a hot topic among Spider-Girl fans, especially lately. Mm-hmm. On, if Spider-Girl needs a new series or not in this Marvel landscape. And so, that's kind of what this felt like a little bit, as well as just a great climax for a goodbye to Annie.
Well, and also too, May's been through a lot, and this is a traumatic thing for her as a character to see, you know, a a dad that is encouraging his daughter to be a superhero. Yes, we saw that Peter eventually gave his blessing, but like for May, seeing a girl at 14, I can understand why May is very conflicted by all of this and then trying to convey, listen, this is a dangerous thing and you need to understand what you're getting yourself into. So,
I feel that part, but I don't think that that's really necessarily something that was at the focus on why she's stressing like, hey, no.
yeah.
For me, the way I took the way May was talking was the one, I promised your mom I'd keep you safe. Two,
Yeah.
the inheritors are not going to kill somebody, especially somebody basically related to me, on my watch ever again.
Yeah.
And so even though she knows that that's not her sister, and I think that that's where a lot of the conflictions is because this, for all seeming purposes, is either her in another universe or a sister, which as she finds out in that part, it's her sister.
Yeah. Her younger sister instead of a baby brother, she has a baby sister. Yeah.
Exactly. And so in her head, that is, okay, this is Benji, essentially. Like this is, you know, it's her entire point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same,
so like in her
level.
head, exactly. So in her head, this is something she's going to do for her family no matter what. And it doesn't matter if it's her home world or outside of it, because this is her family. And she's not going to let another family, her family, be destroyed again by these inheritors. Like it's a trauma response.
Yeah.
Too, in a way, but it very much shows you like the heart of who May is, which I think as we get into Spider-Geddon, is a little lost in dialogue and clunky.
Yeah.
So with that,
Spider-Geddon number 5.
Spider-Geddon number 5, written by Christos Gage, based on a story by Dan Slott, art by Jorge Molina, Joey Vasquez, Stefano Castelli, Carlo Barbarelli. Inks by Layston. Or look, if I butcher y'all's names and y'all hear me, I apologize. Jose Marsden Jr., Stefano Caselli, and Joey Vasquez. Released on December 19th, 2018, and cover dated February 2019. In the thick of the big fight, MJ and I should probably preface, I am not talking about the beginning of this issue. I am just going to come in when the girls come in, and that's it. And when they leave, that's it. So, just letting you know.
Kelly was like, no, we're not. We're keeping it focused because we're in an hour and a half and we haven't even got through.
Well, we're almost done. But yeah, no.
Yeah,
so anyway, in the thick of the big fight, MJ and Peter from Renew Your Vows has a heart-to-heart and wish they could hear their daughter's voice one more time before they do I guess some passionate kiss because they think they're gonna die. And with that perfect Parker timing, Annie comes out of the portal with a disgusted ew, being followed by May and Anya. May telling Annie she needs to let her parents have their moment and telling everyone how she wishes she could see her mom kiss her dad again. Going from Jody to Christos makes me sad.
Like, to me, that should have not been a dialogue piece. That should have been like
it's not a dialogue.
It should have been
not a dialogue.
It should have been in a box, or a thought bubble.
But what are you expecting from Christos Gage?
I know. He's considering what he's having to work on this plot from Slott again. So, yeah. Anyway,
because there are some theories. After some clunky dialogue to advise where the girls have been this whole time, Annie tells May to power up and uses her pattern-making powers to give the girls some Sentai-like armor. And Anya advises that the web will always have its warriors. Dear God, I hate this writing. The girls go full Power Rangers on Bora and Bricks. May sets her sights on taking down Deimos and uses her Sentai suit to take him down. Then some more fighting. Gwen shows up with more of the spiders. More fighting. That's not really a May focus, so who cares? They take them down and then start debating on what to do with them. Miles being really uncomfortable with what everyone else is kind of seemingly down for, which is teaching them responsibility, question mark, question mark, question mark. I hate this so much. Anyway, basically the inheritors, Sans Moreland, are now babies who will be taken care of by Spider-Man. I could go into this, but I don't think I will. I don't want to. So I am old man Captain America on that bench. Nah, you don't need it. So this issue is a chore to read, and that's saying something considering Spider-Verse, and I just want to get this over with as quickly as possible, please. So everyone starts to portal hop back to their world, and Annie tells the girls that she will see them again. May makes note that this time Silk was still the bride for some reason. Her brother was still the scion, and Annie is the pattern maker. So who was the other this time? Annie doesn't exactly know, but tells May that there is always another in these situations. And while she can't really see exactly who it is, she does feel like it's someone close to May. And we cut to Earth 982 to see a hand come out of the ground in front of a tombstone that reads, Peter Benjamin Parker, beloved husband and father. They all leave in a portal, so clearly that's the end of the issue, because honestly, that's how it should have ended, because WTF, the end. Zach, thoughts?
Oh, yeah. This is the best recap of the bunch. So there, again, a lot of stuff's going on. I mean, Miles gets the Captain Universe powers. This is a Miles event. That's why, ultimately, yeah. So on one hand, Kelly's right. We don't need to talk about the rest of the stuff. On the other hand, this is an issue that was very hastily put together.
Oh, man. No.
We had 4 artists that worked on this, 2 inkers, and then 2 of the artists that worked on this they're inking their own work. This spells a disaster in production. I have talked about this for almost 15 years. Anytime you see multiple artists and inkers, it's not usually a good sign, because they're having to do rewrites and scripts and stuff like that. So again, this feels like it's like cobbled together, I also do want to note, on a side note, completely unrelated, you see it up on the screen if you're watching us on YouTube. This also carries the In Memory of Stan Lee. Stan Lee had just passed away, and there's also tributes to him in this issue as well. So he had passed away a couple of months before. But yeah, it's like, oh, we got to wrap up this event, and it's just trying to smash all this together, and it's poorly paced. You could have taken some of the stuff in this issue and put it in last issue, and etc. But yeah, so there is one final issue we'll cover tonight, Kelly, after you give your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, do we want to harp on that last panel?
Oh, I talk about that more in my final thoughts.
Cool. We'll talk about it in final thoughts. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and get Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider issue number 4 over really fast, because it is really fast. It's just a quick cameo. Written by Sinan McGuire and art by Rosie Campe and Tanishi Miyazawa. Colors by Ian Herring, released on January 9th, 2019. This is a quick one. It's about Gwen dealing with grief after losing Spider UK and Karn and a couple other people from Spider-Geddon. And as we all know, Spider UK as the guy that kept committing war crimes and Web Warriors.
Yeah.
So anyway,
see last episode for more.
Yes. So the scene with May is after the memorial they have in Loom World for the lives lost in Spider-Geddon, and basically like burn Karn as like a wake, which is kind of crazy to think about. Anyway,
Makes me think of Vader at the end of Jedi.
Yeah. So anyway, and May advises, as she helps light Karn, that he was always kind to her, which he was. So that's sweet. May advise then Gwen, who's having a really hard time with this, asks May if she's ready to head home, and May advises she is, and really just wants to sit and watch Benji sleep, even if that sounds weird. Gwen says she gets it and says she wants to get May home too. I'm guessing May isn't keeping her portal hopper after this fight.
Actually, everybody's portal hoppers broke during the whole
right. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So Gwen helps get a ton of other spiders home and deals with her feelings and grief. We cut to a lot of different worlds that she had jumped through in her previous series, when she was basically running from her home. And at the end of this issue, she makes it to her home of World 65, and it's the end. So like I said,
Notably,
it's just a coda.
Yeah, she notably goes to the Noir Earth where she talks to Aunt May, and Aunt May slaps her because she's mad that Peter was Spider-Man, and then also talks to the Black Cat, so that you get closure with Noir, and then you also get her going to Lady Riley and talking about Spider UK, and get that too. So yeah, I don't have many thoughts. I do like how Gwen and May are written here. Since they kind of made Gwen and Annie by proxy the ones who can multi-hop, it makes sense that it's the aftermath issue. And it feels like it's an aftermath of everything of the last couple years. This is also very early in the days of CB Cebulski. I didn't talk about that in Spider history, but it felt like they were trying to maybe unwind some damage that had been done from Alonso. Just a theory. I can get into that in my final thoughts.
A comic theory?
Yeah, I have comic
I'll
theories.
be so sad that Matt Pat's retiring.
I know. That is really, really sad. I there's a lot of YouTubers that are like, I'm done. I'm like, what?
Yeah, they're my age and they're tired and they have the money that they can retire. So anyway.
We do not. That's why we're starting.
We do not.
So, you want to give my final thoughts, or you want to give your? I can go first if that's fine.
I'm just you're written first, so let's go.
All right. So for me, the Spider-Geddon story feels like Slott and by extension Gage were ordered to try to put the toys back in the box. Ben Reilly's reset the factory settings, though that gets overturned in 2021. Kane was bleeding out dead after being stabbed by Ben, but suddenly he's fine. Miles gets to start in his new series by Ahmed. He's since relaunched with Ziegler. This also gives Gwen her new code name for Ghost Spider, which is why they launched her new Ghost Spider series out of this.
Well, she was named. So let's clear this up. So, because a lot of people go, why was she renamed when she was Spider-Gwen? She's never Spider-Gwen. The title was called Spider-Gwen. So you would pick it up because it was Gwen Stacy.
Yeah.
She was Spider-Woman in Earth 65, just like she is in her movie. And for a while, she went as Ghost Spider because she didn't want to be anybody, really.
Yeah. She wanted her own identity that wasn't like tied to somebody else in another universe.
Yeah.
Eventually, like this is the volume that like she ends up going back to 616. So it's kind of setting that up. And then, Moreland is back to being just the force of nature, and all the other inheritors are now essentially dead as the inheritors. And he's the only one that's going to hunt spiders in an attempt to reset him back to factory settings, quote unquote. And Peter Parker of Earth 92 is not dead. See, we hear you. The editors are saying we fixed it. As I've often said over the years, you can smash the toys together in a vain attempt to because you have a good idea and you can smash the toys together. But if you do it over time, there's going to be scuffs, marks, and the toys are going to break. And unlike every other hero here, every other universe, we got a proper ending to Earth 982 and the story. And so that's part of the reason it's heartbreaking and frustrating when we talk about these things to you guys, our audience, because I will also acknowledge that for some, this is their intro into May's world. And the good news is we have options available for people to dive in deeper and get that appreciation, and hopefully that people like Kelly and I have. And hopefully we've done these stories despite these not being our favorites very clearly justice, and done Mayday to an extent justice, but it's really difficult for us to watch one of our favorite characters get in our opinion, mistreated the way she's been mistreated. These are things that don't occur in Earth 982 with what we've read over the years. And so it's such a tonal shift starting with Spider-Verse and really kind of ending here that we're getting to that point. And, obviously we got new stuff that came out last year, which is great. And we get more content for us to talk about. But, it's kind of a very melancholy thing, and that's why Kelly was like, I just want to get through this. And I'll let Kelly expand upon it.
Well, we'll expand on it. I also do want to make mention, just because we are constantly talking about the toy box, the toy box, the toy box. The way I see characters is they're not toys. They're supposed to feel human. And the thing is ultimately trauma happens, especially in the field that these characters are in. And that changes people. And they change over time. They grow over time. This whole like putting everybody back in a box constantly over and over and over again prevents the growth that is needed to continue a comic series. And like I touched based on this and other things, especially when it comes to Spider-Man.
Yeah.
With May in particular, the issue has always been she was pulled out of 982 and put into Spider-Verse almost maliciously. It wasn't done with great heart. And it's been a total mess up to try and fix, because you can't fix a mirror once it's broken. And, you know, at least with this, like in terms of final thoughts, in terms of that, is Jodie does the best she can. And I think she's the only one that really gives that kind of care, because that was a character she loved. Not to say that, you know, others past don't do their darndest. But, you know, when you got, I'm sorry, Christos Gage and Mike Costa, who really don't understand the character, even the little lines that they ultimately give them towards the end, where they're kind of like, oh, wait, we can't focus on them. Let's just have them be in the side and we'll give them like a quippy little saying. It comes off stilted and weird, because they're feeling like they almost have to over explain why she's now who she is. You know, with like the, man, I wish I could see my parents kiss again. It's like, nobody says that's not cool. Like,
That's not how people talk.
That's not how people talk. So it was very weird. But yeah, so I am, with that being said though, I am glad that this is over. Not that this was bad. Like I love Jodie. I do. And I love Spider-Girls, but this era of Mayday sightings is bleak to me because of that. Because like I said, it just feels like everyone kind of went, oh my God, look at what happened. What do we do with this character? What do we do with this character? What do we do with this character now? Because you can't fix what's broken. It's almost like you know, if you want to use a toy box analogy, they ripped her head off. She was a Barbie doll that they ripped their head off, and now you can't get the head back on right. You know, and it's like I said, the Mayday sightings in Spider-Geddon are bleak. They're very bittersweet to me. May isn't the focus here. She's almost just kind of there to give these newer characters a mentor-like presence and kind of say, here's the new kids. Thanks to Spider-Girl, we know that they can work and they can, you know, be in her place now. And which is great. And I love that in some aspects, but it may be time, you know, it kind of also like gives you that proof of like, it may be time that Mayday needs to get a proper rest and fade from the web. Her story has been told. I know a lot of fans get mad hearing that, but this story kind of very much shows you that, like, her story has been told. You know, this entire thing, Spider-Girls, is entirely May is passing the baton over to Annie, you know, to Gwen, to Miles, et cetera, and that it's okay to move on. Obviously, we know that this doesn't quite work, and other characters have their own magic, and, you know, it's not the magic that was captured in this Spider-Girls run or the original Spider-Girl run. Like, nobody's been able to capture that magic, and I don't think anyone ever will. I don't even think Mayday herself will capture that magic if she was magically brought back, you know, to the fold. You know, I don't ever think that we'll see Mayday being a lead again, and I think maybe that it's time. For that. May is clearly very loved in parts of the Marvel office. I don't think she'll ever be away for long. But as we wind down here, you know, talking about her appearances, and we're kind of getting to last year, you know, I think it's something that we do need to start talking about. is about Spider-Girl's legacy and how sometimes the only way to keep that legacy intact is to put the character on the shelf and let the ones she inspired to take front and center. And, you know, because like I said, I've got bits and pieces about the toy box analogy. I don't think that that's fair because I feel like that all that's doing is stilting characters, which is why a lot of these new characters can't grow and can't continue and can't get through rough patches because people get tired of playing with that toy because it can only do XYZ. It can't grow. It can't change. May was able to do that.
Well, and
Marvel just won't let them do that now. So period.
And
so it will never work. That lightning in a bottle will never work again, unfortunately, just not in the industry the way it is right now.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing too is, and if I don't know if Ron's watching or not, but the ability of Tom and Ron to collaborate, the artist and the writer, to do that, you don't see that anymore because everybody's so spread out. There's not that developing of a relationship like we see with Tom and Ron in that manner, in that way. It's, hey, I wrote the script, I sent it to the editor then sends it to the artist. And when a lot of, as they've talked about on this show, a lot of times it's the stories that are created are, hey, you know, they're spitballing back and forth. It's a collaborative effort on the phone. And sometimes even DeFalco would stop Ron from going, hey, that's a great A-Next story, but is it a great Spider-Girl story? Nobody at Marvel, I don't think, asks anymore.
I don't know if they have the time frame anymore.
And that's true. And like for Amazing Spider-Man, because of the schedule, it's probably very hard to be able to write that out. Because you see it like sometimes with the ancillary titles, like Amazing Mary Jane, for example. You know, what's going to make a good Mary Jane story? Okay, and then you go write it.
But see, that was before the pandemic too, and that's also another thing to touch on is like everything post-pandemic is almost robotic. And that's not even just for the comic industry. That's almost every industry.
Yeah.
Everything has become almost as robotic and as
soulless.
You know, soulless, but also a lot of hindering on quick turnaround and quick profit. And there's nothing of substance.
So maybe we should do an episode of the Legacy of Spider-Girl and let us know what you think in the comments down below.
For sure. Yeah, no, I definitely think so. Because I think that's something that we need to have a conversation as with fans. Because, you know, like I said, it's so many fans don't want to hear it. They want and they need to see her in comics again. And I don't disagree with that, but I also think waiting around for it and expecting it to be the exact same. And that's really going to be a major theme in the future of what we talk about, because I have a huge bone to pick with Stephanie Williams and her little mini series that was on Marvel Unlimited, which, you know, we know a bit of what was happening behind the scenes, just in general, like what the timeline would have been.
Very short turnaround.
So so there is that, but there was a lack of, there wasn't a soul, and there wasn't a lack of a meaningful knowledge in her story. And we'll go into it because it's so radically different. And it's like, that's what you're going to get from Marvel right now. They're not going to bring Tom and Ron back. They're not going to bring,
and that's
they're going to put somebody new on it, and they're not going to know, and they're not going to have the ability to do their own research.
I mean, we talked about Spencer on this channel a lot, but, you know, he went back and read all those. He did a whole read through of Spider-Man before he started. Well, he had that
and then
time.
He wasn't able to tell the story he wanted to tell.
And then the ending gets kind of ripped away. And so it's very difficult, like you say. We'll definitely get into that as we progress through 2024 here on the show.
Definitely.
Let's throw up some comments right quick.
Sure.
We had Game Quest. Just pre-ordered that first volume a moment ago. Have the singles, but happy to support more Spider-Girl in whatever form we can get her.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yes, support all the things. Definitely
Yes.
buy it, and if you can buy it, like from Barnes and Noble, even Amazon, definitely do so. Definitely buy digitals if you can. Also, as we're talking about how Marvel's not going to bring Tom and Ron and Co back. There is a little Battle World story if you like 80s Secret Wars that you should definitely pick up at your local comic book shop or both. Really, do both. Also buy digital on formerly Comixology, now Kindle.
Yeah.
Because
Bezos ruined.
that's gonna help.
Yeah, Bezos ruined Comixology, and it just makes me mad every time I think about it.
I think Bezos was gone from Amazon by that point.
No, he
anyway.
was.
But
it's just easy to blame him for it. But
fair. But yeah, no, for real, like if you want to continue to support things and you want to literally show like, hey, this is what I want, put the money behind it. Support those projects, and support those projects not through secondhand. Support them at your local comic book shop. Support them at your Barnes and Noble, at your Amazon, et cetera, et cetera. Just do whatever you can to support it and let that be the testament. I mean, that was the case way back when with Save Spider-Girl that I think a lot of people have forgotten. Is lots of money went behind that because people were buying the comics. That was the whole drive, was to buy it and put your money where your mouth is. Don't just sit there and talk on Twitter, and send death threats to certain people at Marvel for whatever. Not necessarily with Spider-Girl. It's not Spider-Girl fans that are doing that, but we've seen it in the Spider-Man fandom. Just don't do that. Put your money where your mouth is. If you don't want to read something, don't buy it.
I'll be honest.
Don't even steal it, because they have trackers now that can see when you take some, you pirate something. Like don't even take those.
Like, I'll be honest. Between Spider-Man, the Spectacular Spider-Man, I think it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to that book. The DeMatteis book, I'm looking forward to that book. Ultimate Spider-Man, I loved the first issue so far. There's a lot of stuff outside of Amazing right now that you can enjoy. Buy those. Support those.
Yeah.
You don't have to read Amazing. I read Amazing because of this of this channel, and I read Amazing, so you don't have to. But
that's why I walked away from the main show at Crawlspace. I refuse to read that book until something changes. Something majorly changes in the way that these stories are being written. But in general, because I feel like we're kind of getting off on a tangent on that. But is there?
Yeah, leave us some comments here.
Comments?
Because the two that we have starred, thanks to Neil, was the Game Quest one that I just mentioned.
Awesome.
Also, Vinkman does bring this up, and that makes me feel old. The original Spider-Verse is 10 years old.
Yeah.
The story.
I mean, we talked about that when we talked about Spider-Verse.
It was,
Hey, it's been 26 years since What If 105.
Oh, this year's the 30th anniversary of the Clone Saga. And Gargoyles.
Gargoyles.
Yeah. And the 90s show.
Mm-hmm. All right. But yeah, so anyway, there's no emails, reviews, or questions or anything, but always feel free to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. I believe Spotify has questions. I don't know how they get sent back to us, but I know that that's there now. So you can definitely leave us some comments, questions on that as you listen on Spotify.
Yes.
Definitely give us 5 stars on Spotify. Hopefully 5 stars on Apple Podcasts if you feel like it. And you can send me an email at makemymayday@gmail.com for the show. Just tell me that it is okay to read on air. And yeah, that's basically all I got. So next episode, we're getting into 2023 territory with Spider-Man? ? It's just called Spider-Man, but it is most definitely the storyline is AKA end of Spider-Verse. But is it the end though? Don't know. We'll find out next month at some point. So keep an eye out on our socials. And please make sure to sign up for our Discord so we can kind of bounce off scheduling these live recordings with you. However, we're not doing 9 o'clock on a Saturday again.
Yeah. So Kelly has spoken now.
Yeah.
No more 9 o'clock.
Yeah. So is there anything else to plug, Zach?
Yeah, let me I'll just start talking about a little bit about what we got coming up on this month on the channel. Our Spidey Dude Experience show also is on this YouTube channel. Later on this month, we're going to be doing an interview with JM DeMatteis. He is returning to talk to us about the Ghosts of the Green Goblin book, 5-issue miniseries coming out in April. Also, Books of X is up on Patreon for your listening pleasure right now. You'll have more fun stuff coming up soon. Neil, we can start putting the cards up. I got them in order. If you have not already checked out our show with Greg Wiseman talking about the Spectacular Spider-Man, it's a lot of fun. There's also a episode or a clip that went pretty viral on the channel that was crazy. If you have not already checked all those out, it's on the YouTube page. I also want to thank our Patreon subscribers over at patreon.com/Spidey Network. Our sensational tier of patrons are Allison, Cindy, Ed, Georgia, Greg, Janelle, Jessica, Jurgen, Catherine, Kale, Laura Howard, Lump Moose, Master Drammond, Scott, Vanessa, and Vicky. Thank you for your support over on Patreon. And then we have our VIPs, as I mentioned at the top, Scott McGraw, Sebastian, and Vinkman. We also want to thank Sarah for being a spectacular patron. So thank you to all them. I do want to mention here, there's just a few hours left on the Gargoyles Kickstarter. So if you're watching us live, be sure to go back that. It ends on Monday. And if you haven't, or if it's too late, you should go over to Voices from the Eyrie and listen to that. They're starting their 30th anniversary celebration of Gargoyles. That's coming up this year. And be sure to go back and listen to our coverage of both the Ultimate Spidey Dude Experience and, like I mentioned, that Spectacular Spider-Man interview with Greg Wiseman, where you just kind of find out what he thought of that Spider-Verse's Spectacular Spider-Man cameo. And speaking of, if you haven't checked out our over on spidey-dude.com, like Spectacular Radio, where we talk with Greg Wiseman quite a bit. Every episode of the show, you can find that on your favorite podcasting catcher. Check out Clone Saga Chronicles, the show all about the Clone Saga related characters and the Clone Saga itself. Clone Saga celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. Hard to believe. And my notes don't want to. There's the cursor. And so, go away. Check out the Amazing Spider-Man Classics podcast, the Sal Buscema era podcast. And if you haven't picked up the Marvel Secret Wars miniseries that Kelly mentioned by Tom and Pat, be sure to pick that up and add that.
Do it. It
is great. It is good stuff. And you definitely need to check that out. Be sure, if you have not picked up the singles, pick up the trade too. Pick up the digitals, like Kelly says. Like what you like. Don't be a jerk. That's the best advice I can always give. So, yes, you can also find us on our social medias. You find us over on at Facebook and Instagram at Spidey Dude Network, Twitter at Spidey Dude Radio, and at Make My Mayday. If you're watching us live on there, hello. YouTube.com/Spidey Dude Radio Network. If you're an audio listener, thank you again. Leave us those 5-star reviews, and we'll read any and all reviews that are on a future episode. You can also leave us a voicemail, 818-925-6631, if you want your voice to be heard on the show. And Instagram, you can find us at Spidey Dude Network and at Final Go Kel, and as well as TikTok at Spidey Dude Network. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for being a part of everything we do here. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time here on the Spidey Dude Radio Network.